My family abandoned me because SIS blamed me for her divorce. Years later, I got an email out of nowhere explaining everything, with proof, so I ruined her life with it. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. Almost 7 years ago, my family cut me out of their lives and kicked me out of the house. I was 22 at the time and wasn't financially stable enough to rent an apartment on my own. What had happened was so sudden that I had no time to prepare myself mentally or financially. The reason behind all of this was my sister. My sister, Hannah, 37F, and I have never been close because of the significant age gap between us. She got married to her boyfriend, Pete, 39M, after 3 years of dating when she was 27. They were married for 3 years before they got divorced. According to Hannah, Pete had been having an affair with one of my friends, and she blamed me for introducing them. I had been living with my parents after college since I had just started working and wanted to save some money before moving out. My parents were okay with that arrangement, but that changed when Hannah announced her divorce. One day, she came back home crying hysterically and told us she had filed for divorce because Pete had been cheating on her for 6 months. She then threw me under the bus, claiming that my friend Emily, 28F, was the woman Pete had been cheating with, and since I had introduced them, I was responsible for her marriage falling apart. I was shocked because even though Emily and I weren't close, I knew for a fact that she would never get involved with a married man. Besides, cheating was so out of character for Pete. He was totally smitten with Hannah and only ever had good things to say about her. I found it incredibly hard to believe that he had cheated. Despite my doubts, my parents believed Hannah instantly and didn't even question anything, even though she had no proof of Pete's infidelity. They just took her word for it. I could understand them choosing their daughter over their son-in-law, regardless of who was right, but what I didn't understand was why they so readily kicked me out just because Hannah said so. She stormed in one day, threw a tantrum, and somehow convinced my parents to throw me out simply because I had introduced Emily to Pete. She accused me of ruining her marriage, and my parents agreed with her for some reason. I was devastated and tried to plead with my parents, but they wouldn't listen to me at all. They told me that if I didn't leave, they would forcefully remove me. In just one day, I lost my family and my home and had absolutely no idea where to go. I sat on the sidewalk with all my stuff for an hour, sobbing, before I pulled myself together and went to a friend's house for the night. I tried contacting my parents every single day for the next few days, but I had no luck. My friend was kind enough to let me stay at his place until I was able to find an apartment for myself. Unfortunately, my parents had made up their minds that I was in the wrong and was responsible for the divorce. Before kicking me out, they even told me they were disgusted by what I had done. This made no sense because it wasn't like I was the one who Pete had supposedly cheated with. They blocked my number, and when I tried visiting them, my mom threatened to call the cops on me if I didn't leave. That was when I realized they were serious about cutting me off. I shouldn't have been surprised since Hannah had always been the favorite child. My parents had never planned for a second child, so I was always sidelined. While I didn't care much about it growing up, I never imagined it would lead to something this huge. For weeks, I tried to make sense of what had happened. Hannah and my parents had practically cut me off, and I had no way to reach them. Pete had also blocked me, which made no sense at the time. I couldn't find him either, since both he and Hannah had moved out of their home. With no other options, I turned to Emily for answers. Even though Emily and I weren't close, I had to find out the truth. I met with her and explained the situation. She denied having any affair with Pete, and I believed her. She told me she had only met Pete a few times in a professional capacity since he was a dietitian and she was trying to gain weight. She had no idea why Hannah would say such an awful thing about her. She also told me she had been in a steady relationship for a couple of years and was planning to get married soon. She even showed me pictures of her fiancé. Her story made way more sense than Hannah's, but since I had no proof, I couldn't go back to my family. Back then, I was desperate to be with them again, but over time I moved on. I found a place, focused on my job, and worked hard to build a life for myself. I was hurting, but I had no other choice but to move forward without my family's support. Years passed, and I did much better in life. I moved from my tiny apartment to a much bigger one, and a week ago, I got engaged to my girlfriend of 2 years, Liza, 30F. Our engagement post ended up being a game changer for me. Liza usually only posted about us on Instagram, but this time, she also shared it on Facebook, where she had a wider audience. The post was public, and a lot of people saw it, including my ex-brother-in-law, Pete. Pete and Liza had met at a seminar years ago since she was a doctor, and they had added each other on Facebook. A few days after our post, I received an anonymous email that explained the entire story behind Hannah's divorce, with proof attached. Pete later admitted he sent the email, but had done so anonymously because he didn't want to seem like a sore loser who hadn't moved on from the past. He had blocked me back then in a fit of rage, and reaching out now felt weird to him. The email revealed the truth. Hannah had been the one cheating on Pete, not the other way around. Even worse, she had been cheating with a friend of mine, just as she had accused Pete. The man she had an affair with was Frank, 28M, a cashier at the grocery store near her house. I had never seen them together, so I never would have made the connection. But they hadn't hidden it well enough for Pete to miss. When he confronted Hannah, she blamed me, claiming I had introduced her to Frank and helped them keep their affair a secret. All of it was a complete lie. Pete had been so outraged when he found out that he blocked my entire family, which he now admits was a stupid move. He later ran into Emily, who asked him about the divorce, and they got to talking. That's how he learned what Hannah had told our family. He had wanted to tell me the truth back then, but felt too weird about reaching out. The proof Pete provided included a series of emails between Hannah and Frank, where they discussed how easy it was to fool Pete. The emails were filled with confessions of love and plans for their next meetup. There was no way Hannah could deny it because she had even signed off with her middle name, which very few people knew. I had her dead to rights. After combing through Liza's Facebook friends, I realized the anonymous email had to be from Pete. I reached out to him, and we met a few days ago. He confirmed everything. I forgave him for blocking me because I needed his help to absolutely destroy my sister, and I knew he would be on board. Hannah had definitely been lying to my parents, so she'd have financial support during her divorce, and had even thrown me under the bus for good measure because she'd known that one conversation with Emily, and I'd know the truth. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that someone, especially someone who was related to me by blood, could be this selfish. I'm sure she'd never bothered to set the record straight either, and my parents had just lapped up whatever lies she'd been feeding them during her divorce. She'd known that if the truth about her being the cheater had been revealed to our parents, she would have been in big trouble, and she just couldn't risk that. Well, too bad, but it was finally out now, and I was going to use it to ruin her life, just like she'd ruined mine all those years ago. I didn't know if my family lived in the same house since I hadn't visited them for 7 years, but as luck would have it, they hadn't moved. I confirmed with an old neighbor of mine before showing up and was glad to learn that Hannah was still living with them as well. That wasn't very surprising to me because Hannah had always been a couch potato and hated doing any work herself. So if she had the option of living with her aging parents and making them do all the chores for her, she'd definitely do it. Anyway, 2 days back, Pete and I just showed up without warning at their house. My mom opened the door, and we barely even gave her any time to register what was happening before we walked in. My dad and Hannah were also present in the living room, and we were one happy family again, but not for long since their expressions soured just as soon as we entered. My dad began to threaten us immediately and said that he'd call the cops if we didn't get the hell out of his house. I shot right back, saying that he was free to do whatever he wanted to, but only after he'd read the documents that we were about to show them. My parents looked incredibly confused, but Hannah looked like she was going to barf and excused herself so that she could go to her room. I thought she was trying to escape, but there was no point in doing so anyway. Pete went on to show the divorce documents and the screenshots of Hannah and Frank's emails while I explained the real story. Pete also told my parents how Hannah had to give up our family heirloom, my grandmother's diamond ring, in the settlement because she couldn't afford to pay him the money. Since she's a high school teacher, she had to sell the ring instead. My parents were already horrified by what we told them, and that was just the cherry on top. We watched the drama unfold as my dad demanded an explanation from Hannah for all that had happened, and when she still tried to lie and cover up the truth despite all the evidence against her, my dad promptly kicked her out. He packed her stuff for her, handed over the bags to her, and then told us all to get the hell out of their house. I didn't need to be told twice and left with Pete while my sister begged and pleaded with my parents to let her back in, just like I had all those years ago. This was karma at its best, and I couldn't be happier about it. It's been a couple of days since then, and my sister showed up at my place a few hours ago, demanding that I make things right with my parents immediately. I didn't even know how she found me, but I told her that I didn't owe her anything anymore. She'd ruined my life once, so I repaid her the favor, and we were now fair and square. I guess she really had no pride left, because as soon as I said that, she started sobbing and accusing me of being a monster. I didn't care much for her drama, though, and shut the door while she continued to sob relentlessly. I just put my headphones on and listened to music while Lisa, my fiancée, worked in her study so neither of us would be disturbed. After a while, Hannah finally left us alone, but she left a message with a marker on my door to remind me that I was nothing but a vengeful monster. I don't see anything wrong with what I did, very frankly, and don't feel sorry in the least, but Hannah seems pretty convinced that I'm the villain here somehow. I just did to her what she'd done to me several years ago, except that I told the truth while she did nothing except lie and throw me under the bus. So, what do you guys think? Am I the asshole for ruining my sister's life and getting her kicked out 7 years after she accused me of causing her divorce? Update 1. Hannah has still been bothering me even though a week has passed since she got kicked out. I had to threaten her with the fear of cops when she called me for the 14th time today, and only then did she stop. I don't even know how she managed to find my phone number and address, but I'm least interested in that right now. Hannah's trying to make me feel sympathetic towards her because, I guess, a school teacher's salary isn't enough for her to live on. But I don't think that's true. She's just upset that she has to look for a place and pay for her own rent, electricity, and groceries now that our parents have kicked her out. So, I don't feel too sorry for her. And in case you guys were wondering, yes, I did block her number several times, but I guess she's making her friends add me to conference calls, so there's no point. As for my parents, they're just as bad, if not worse, than Hannah. They found me on Facebook and saw the post about my engagement, so now they want to be part of my life once more, and have even expressed their desire to attend my wedding. They haven't apologized yet, but for some reason, they expect me to just invite them to my wedding, which is supposed to be a really important day for me. I don't understand where these people find the guts to say crap like this, but at least I'm not responding to any of it. Liza and I have had a field day reading their texts because there's really just no way they're for real right now. It's all just really sad for them. Update 2. Hannah showed up at my house yet again after I threatened to report her for harassment yesterday. I was about to leave for work, but she stopped me by throwing herself across the hood of my car and refused to budge until I spoke to her. It was pretty exasperating, and I ended up actually calling the police this time. They took her away while she screamed and cried and tried her best to make me look like the bad guy. But unfortunately, nobody was buying her sad girl act here. It took some time to press charges against her, but as soon as I got it done, I left for work because I didn't want to let this little incident ruin my day. I was sure my parents would bail her out anyway, since she was their favorite, and I turned out to be right. After bailing her out, my parents sent me a lengthy text about how I was being way too harsh on them for an honest mistake they made almost a decade ago. It was hilarious because nothing about what my sister and parents put me through was either honest or even a mistake. They knew what they were doing, and were definitely aware of how cruel they were. Update 3. I just got back home from work and checked my socials, only to see that my parents had yet again sent me another long message. Liza and I went through it together, and I swear this was the funniest thing I've ever read. Apparently, they still believe that we're family and told me that they've taken Hannah back in. They also expected me and Liza to come to their house for dinner so we could sort out our differences in a civilized manner before the wedding. Bold of them to assume that I'd even want them at my wedding in the first place. After a good laugh, I wrote back saying I wasn't interested in the slightest. With that last text, I blocked them once and for all. Liza is the only family I need now, and I'm happy with just her. The next time they try to get in touch with me, they'll be speaking to my lawyer, and that's a promise.